So, it would seem that despite my optimism, my genuine enjoyment of this game, at its release, Tekken 8 is pretty much destined to become a live service model, or essentially adopt live service elements that have been synonymous with a lot of games in their development in recent years. And I say this as somebody who sang, sang this game's praises at its release, played it, genuinely enjoyed it, and had such a good time. And the VODs are even up on my YouTube channel as evidence of that. In fact, we can basically scroll down a little while. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. You will see it upon the game's release. Here, Tekken 8 is one of the best fighting games I've ever played. No, one of the best games I've played in years. Period. The series is at its best since Tekken 5. Now, I have had to really take a moment to reflect upon that statement in light of the most recent announcements and taking a moment to remove the nostalgia goggles, the satisfaction elements, and just look at the way the game is going in terms of its ecosystem and its monetization practices. We have a $70 game, base price at release, with a $100 deluxe edition, a $300 collector's edition, a season pass at launch, and now, as has been reported by Yellow Motion here, the inclusion of legacy outfits as paid DLC, which is heavily rumored to be coming in the form of a microtransaction driven currency element that will be able to be bought for real money. Let's have a listen to what's been said here, shall we? Let's have a listen.
We've updated the way we developed the game, obviously for Tekken 8, various mythologies, etc. But we would like to ask a favor of everyone that they kind of update their thinking to the current environment of game development and how games are sold, how they're consumed, etc. So, games to create now are just so much more expensive than even Tekken 7 was. So it's like, several times of that when we're thinking about the current platform of games. So
Right. Now, I already have counter arguments lined up for that. I have had discussions already, to which I'm going to give you my point here. I'll clarify my issue with Tekken 8 and its looming currency shop, where they plan to sell legacy content for money. Tekken 8, as we've already said, is a $70 title with a $100 deluxe edition, $300 collector's edition, a season pass at launch. Premium currency is basically the final element that we require for this to be adopting at least a the shell of a live service model. And another important thing to consider is how they waited a whole month after the game's release, a whole 4.5 weeks pretty much, to announce and then quietly slip the premium currency cash shop, or will be slipping the premium currency cash shop into the game with an extreme lack of transparency in order to actually avoid any kind of negative press. It's not a good look. It really isn't a good look. And why sit there asking the community and the fan base nicely to support your product when you have been disingenuous enough to sneak something quite egregious into your game in post with the not stated but very much implied intention of dodging negative criticism from what will be viewed as a bad business practice? You tell me that. I have been embroiled in some pretty polite discussion, I will argue here. Right, here we go. Neither is a cosmetic shop being updated 1 to 2 times a month an example of a live service. These people just say things for the sake of it. My answer to that argument there. You're literally arguing semantics if you don't think the mechanics being added hold the potential for exploitation by executive decree as Tekken 8 develops over time. Because that's what these games do. That's what games that adopt live service elements do. They evolve over time. The monetization changes, it expands, the business model grows. It becomes a much larger and more expensive thing. And you can guarantee that the actual cost of that microtransaction currency or the cost of those costumes, even if they are starting at $4 per outfit now, will increase over time. I see these people using a comparative argument of, oh, well, it's cheaper. They're still essentially nickel and diming you there. They are nickel and diming you. My response to another little segment here, my response to Harada's actual statement here. Development costs are now 10 times more expensive than in the 90s and more than double or nearly triple the cost of Tekken 7. Even the Fight Lounge servers are costly to maintain. And I have even politely put this one forward to Harada himself. Respectfully, Harada-san, as you can see here, Tekken 8 is already a $70 title with all the stuff I've mentioned previously leading up to this, and a season pass at launch. Is that not enough revenue to support the dramatic increase in cost? Paid costumes or microtransactions do essentially make Tekken into a live service. I have repeated at nauseam this point, and the amount of counter arguments I have actually had from people have been quite astounding. This one person says we could consider using the Tekken coins currency as a bad, oh sorry, a bad thing as it technically makes you pay more, but on the flip side, the costumes could be $5, still reasonable, and is that issue is gone. I think it's currently a fair compromise, especially compared to its competitors. My answer here. I genuinely respect that you're at least coming at this with a fair and balanced approach. Unfortunately, I am far too cynical to believe that the prices will remain reasonable and won't simply be hiked up with each new wave of content, even with one of my favorite series. And I do want to make very clear that I am so displeased about the direction that Tekken is taking because of my love for the series. I have been playing Tekken since Tekken 3 as a little kid. I have actively been engrossed in the series since I was about 14. I have met one of my best and most, treasured friends and also my long-term partner, both of those people, through a Tekken fan forum many years ago. And Tekken has been a very large part of my life. And even when Tekken 7 came out, I want to debunk those people who are going to come at me and say, well, you can't be a fan of the franchise at present if you're not willing to support it with your money and support, its revenue streams. Just because I am unhappy with the revenue streams being essentially put out there and the monetization that has been placed upon us as consumers, just because I won't support that practice, it does not mean that I dislike the game. I just believe that we should have a much more feature complete release without things being insidiously added in post. I loved Tekken. You will find countless VODs. Tekken 7, I should specify. I love Tekken 7. You will find countless VODs on my channel of me having Tekken fight nights with friends, my partner, all kinds of stuff. And even then, I didn't buy a single season pass, and I bought one single DLC character in the whole, what is it now, close to a decade, 8 years or something, that has been Tekken 7's lifespan. I have bought a singular DLC character, never once paid for a season pass, and haven't supported any of its other monetization options. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. It's a complex argument, this one. I want to also clarify here. My argument is based on the monetization practice being rammed into said game rather than the game itself. Because this person argues that I'm entitled because I would like content from a game 20 to 27 years ago. I'm not entitled to anything, but people blindly defending modern industry trends because that's just the way it is now enable those trends to continue. Another person criticizes, "You're going to pay to keep the servers up for the next 8+ years?" Respectfully, I don't have to. Not when individuals willingly hand over money whenever developers bring out the begging bowl to justify excessive monetization on behalf of the executive paymasters dictating their salaries. Because that is what it is, an executive decision. The Tekken team actually go on to argue in the video that we were watching a moment ago that this is not something that's going to be going into Bandai Namco's coffers. It will be going into the game's development. I am not so trusting as to believe that that is the case. To somebody who is a two-time business graduate, who is a master's business graduate with a macroeconomics research background, I lived and breathed economics for a whole year of my time in university. I have a pretty solid grasp on how it works. And just because I can see it from a pure business standpoint, is it an effective business standpoint in line with changing trends? Absolutely. We can't actually not. It's validity in terms of making the company money because it will make the company far more money than will actually be put back into the continued life cycle of the game. But is it incredibly anti consumer? And do I think there's an extreme problem with this cash shop going to be implemented in post? Not at launch, but at post to supplement the season pass and all the money they'll have made off the various editions? Absolutely. But anyway, this is just a discourse that I have been having. I have tried to keep the discourse as polite as possible during the whole thing because I'm not one of those who likes to get aggressive or unfair towards people. But this is an issue, and it just proves that with the ecosystem being adopted, Tekken is now pretty much, if not already there, when it comes to being a live service. And the worst part of all of this, really, the saddest part of all of this, is the fact that the only way that you can actually deal with live service based games or games adopting live service elements into their fiscal ecosystem is to just completely uninstall the product and disengage with it. That is your only option. It's up to you how you spend your money. But if you're going to keep fueling anti-consumer practices, don't be complaining if they just become more and more normalized to the point where everything is like that. It's a slippery slope argument, and mark my words, $4 per outfit. It won't stay that way. You watch, it will not. Anyway, I am grateful for you listening to my little rant. A special thank you to our channel members and silver patrons at the time of this video: Mr. Jonathan, Reese Free, Jay, Kota Okami, Jacob the Dabbler, and Julio. It is very much appreciated. And as ever, I have been Silver. your host. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, and I will, as ever, see you again very soon. Take care, guys.